Does eating after 7 or 8 p.m. actually matter?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Can you out-train a bad diet, or is that just
No,
BS?
that's BS. I mean, both are important. Let's not take it to the other extreme.
Are cheat meals necessary?
Yes, but I don't frame them that way. What I mean by that is,
Christina Chu, welcome back to the Broads podcast. Thanks so much for being here.
thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be back. Round two. Let's get things going.
Christina was in Austin in February when it wasn't that hot. And I said, let's do this again in August when it's 100 degrees. So here we are, but she is in Boston and I am in Austin.
Hey.
Yeah. So super excited to have you back. You're just a wealth of knowledge, and your episode's still one of my top 5 of all time. So
that's crazy.
Cheers to us.
Oh, cheers to the both of us, honestly.
Absolutely. Yes. And we have actually officially just gotten over 100,000 downloads a month. And so I'm super excited on that too. Just want to quick share.
Oh my gosh, that's like a whole stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Good for you.
Taylor Swift, and
yeah.
It's like the first thing I think of. Are you a T Swift fan?
I'm a soft Swiftie. So I know her hits. I'll bop to them every time. I'm not a hater, because she's done so much, but I don't know the lore. I don't know the story. I don't know who she's dated. Like, I don't know the clues. Maybe I'll listen to an album. I might not, but like, I definitely know the hits, and I'll dance to Shake It Off for sure.
But what about Travis Kelce, their relationship?
I think they're really cute. Again, I don't know a lot of the like lore of it, but from what I've seen, it just seems like he's such a good support for her. But like, do they say that about her other boyfriends too? I don't know. Like,
who knows? They're celebrities.
Yeah.
But I will say, I listened to their podcast together and I was like, oh, I have a lot of respect for her, for their relationship, and like made me actually really like them a lot together. So,
okay. Yeah.
Very soft Swiftie over here too. I don't know a lot of her stuff, but I mean, like, I am a big fan of just like the billion-dollar industry that she's created. So
her business, her athleticism, her bringing women to sports, like the amount of viewership I'm sure the NFL's gotten, like, you're welcome,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Like, I think she has such a great impact, and you can't ignore that. But again, I just don't know a lot of her like personal stuff.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into this. Women in sports and women in strength training and lifting. So that's a great segue. Let's start with some rapid fire questions. What is worse, skipping protein or skipping sleep?
Ooh, skipping sleep.
I kind of thought you'd say that. I'd say that too. Is carb loading before a workout actually a thing, or is it just a hype?
I would say if this is rapid fire, I would say it is a thing, but not necessary for all workouts.
Do you need a protein shake, or can real food do the job?
Real food can do the job.
Can you out-train a bad diet, or is that just BS?
That's BS.
Do you want to dive a little bit deeper in that right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both are important. Let's not take it to the other extreme. Both are important, but I think there comes a certain point where it's like, yeah, you can't out-train a bad diet. Like, they work cohesively, and I think training is a lot of people's first step as from like a general wellness perspective, but then eventually they'll reach that second stage where they may need to focus on your diet. So both are important. I feel like I see a lot of people's first step is the physical fitness side, and then they'll start to worry about the nutrition.
What about the what I eat in a day videos? I actually have seen them pop up again. Do you feel like that's helping women or hurting women?
I'm an optimist. So a little bit of both, which is like the conflicting part. I think it's great inspiration. And if it's viewed as such, then it could be really helpful to think of new ideas and whatnot. But I think a lot of women are also overanalyzers. So they're like, I need to eat exactly like her, or what am I doing that she's not, or she's eating less than I am, she's eating more than I am. I think we just tend to dig ourselves into rabbit holes. And so in that perspective, it's not helpful. But if we can almost take it like a golden retriever, no thoughts, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Like, I think it's really fun content. But yeah, I think for the overanalyzer, it can be a little challenging.
What about the people that start the videos with some sort of body check where they're like, yeah.
You know, gosh. Yeah, I do. Yeah, they're like, just woke up in the morning, like a little body check. It's a great hook from a content and like almost like a director perspective. But I mean, just think about it like that from an entertainment value.
Hmm.
It's eye-catching and it keeps you engaged, but like it's not a realistic standard.
Does eating after 7 or 8 p.m. actually matter?
Ooh, yes and no. Oh, yes and no. These are not rapid fire
I
answers.
know. Give us a little nuance
The
to that.
two scenarios, yeah, I would say if you're again general wellness and you have a consistent pattern to eat really late into the night, and I don't know, you go to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock, and you just keep eating until then yes, perhaps it would be good to kind of set that boundary of, all right, I'm going to have my last snack or meal here. But if you are someone that gets home late or works out late, then yeah, you would definitely need to have something to eat later in the night. So it's all schedule dependent. So it's not a hard yes or no. I think it's really dependent per person.
What does that do to their sleep or,
Mhm.
to their lifestyle if they are eating all the way up to going to sleep?
Yeah. My like general rule of thumb is to try and stop your last meal around 2 hours before. So let's say you're a night owl, you go to bed at like midnight, then that's like 10, right? Let's say if your day is just shifted. Um, but the impact on sleep that the late night eating can have is we're still on, if that makes sense, where our body is digesting. And for us, whenever we are eating, that means that we're on, that means we're not sleeping because we don't eat when we're asleep. So it signals to your body it's not quite time to go to bed. And now there's this conflicting messaging within your body's natural rhythm, sleep and wake cycle, where then it's like, all right, let's not go to bed. And we have a harder time falling asleep. From a digestion standpoint, let's just think about it from a gravity POV. When we're sitting up, gravity allows our body to aid that digestion. When we're laying down, it doesn't really facilitate that digestion as well. And so a lot of people can experience indigestion, burping, heartburn, GERD, all that jazz if they eat really close to bed. So those are like the two main effects on the body.
Is organic actually better when it comes to macros?
No.
We talked about this in the last podcast as well. We talked about organic versus non-organic foods. So if you haven't listened to that already, please go back. Last rapid fire, are cheat meals necessary?
Hmm. Yes, but I don't frame them that way.
Mm. Okay, one more. Can you still hit your goals if you hate tracking food?
Yes.
Okay, love it. So, actually, let's go back to the cheat meals.
Okay, let's do it.
I asked you if they were necessary, and you said yes. I'm surprised.
So it's a rapid fire, so I want to answer your question.
Yeah, let's
But
go back.
yeah, the logic behind it is, again, let's not take that to the extreme. Does that mean we necessarily need to eat 3 pizzas and be like, well, that's what that lady on that podcast told me to do?
I
Not
stopped it
necessarily.
right before you kept going.
Yeah, literally. Not necessarily. Don't take these things out of context. What I mean by that is we have to have some sort of ebb and flow in our diet. We're not robots. It's not going to look the exact same. You can think about it instead of a light switch turning on and off. It's a dimmer. It turns a little bit more on sometimes and a little bit more off other times. I feel like in the summer is most people's off, around the holiday season is most people's off where they're on vacation and with family. But obviously it depends per person. So we need to have those moments where we enjoy, grandma's cooking or we enjoy the Thanksgiving pie. And that might not seem like you're on. It's actually part of the plan because food is so much more than just the calories that go into your body. But there's a level of emotional and mental satisfaction from it, right? Like there's that one food that just makes you feel at home. There was a study done on college international students. And basically, the gist of it was when they have food that is like home to them, they experience less anxiety and stress, especially in such a stressful situation like college. So there is a huge benefit to that. I don't call them cheat days. I think if you have to cheat on something, that's not a great thing. If you have to cheat on a relationship, it's not a good relationship. If you have to cheat on a test, you're not smart. Like, it is not good to
That's smart.
necessarily cheat as your foundation. If you have to cheat on your diet, it's not a good diet. But more so, hey, you're going to have these moments where your dimmer is off a little bit more, and that's part of the plan. Just more often, whatever ratio, works out best for you. You might hear of the 80-20 rule, 80% on, 20% a little bit more lax. We ideally want to be on more than we're off, but again, it's just different for everyone. So that cheat day, like, phenomenon of the extremeness, not necessarily, but I think when you're like, I want to have some Oreos or I want to have, McDonald's or whatever, like, there is a moment for that to happen every once in a while.
I also liked that you use the word dimmer and not like an
Mhm.
on-off switch because for me, visually, I could see that as like a circle dimmer, like for a light where things can get a little softer, they can get a little bit brighter. Is that where
Mhm.
you're going with that? Because that's visually
Exactly.
what I saw in my mind. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So sometimes you're like, I'm really dialed in. I'm home, I'm not traveling, everything's going smoothly. Like, I really want to focus on my health and my fitness routine. And that's when that dimmer is on a little more. And then you're going to have these moments where it's like, life sucks. It's tax season. I don't know. Like, we're going through something. And you know what? I just can't focus that much on my fitness and my health. Maybe there's little moments and little pockets, but like, life is just pulling so much out of me. I don't have the time or the energy, and that's when that dimmer comes down. And so it ebbs and flows just with the circle of life. But it is the best and most sustainable way to think about your nutrition.
What could we tell women that kind of maybe go through some of those points in life where they're traveling or, life is lifing and maybe that dimmer is a little bit darker? Instead of going even darker and turning it off, how do we get them
Yeah.
to softly maybe turn it back on without this like all or nothing approach to nutrition?
Yeah, great question. It's First of all, I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, you're going through a terrible time, right? And I think as women, we tend to just be like, everything's fine, brush it under the rug. Like, I need to be, put together, whatever that means, and just be like, you know what? It's okay to have a shitty day. It's okay to go a whole day and you're like, you know what? I haven't eaten a single vegetable today. Or, you know what? I didn't eat. Some people lose their appetite when they're going through stressors. And you know what? That's that. That's today, but tomorrow's another day. We have, on average, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, 21 opportunities in 1 week to make some sort of change. So if we missed three, oh well, we missed today. That's okay. But tomorrow, maybe we do something that nourishes us and fills our cup. You know what? I'm going to make sure I get my breakfast in tomorrow. Messed up today, that's okay, whatever, bad day. But tomorrow, let's make sure I start my day off with, having some sort of breakfast. Or, you know what, I'm going to go grocery shopping and maybe I'll buy convenient food, but I need something and I don't have the time or the energy to cook. So I'm just going to go grocery shopping tomorrow and that'll be my one act of self care. And I think just taking those little baby steps can help. And I know something that helps too is just think about it from someone else's perspective. I need to do this because I, want to be there to support my friend, to support my family, to support my dog, to support my cat. Like, anything to kind of hold you accountable in that way, I think can help prevent that dimmer from going completely dark.
I like that you also said it as 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. That's 21 chances. And
Mhm.
for a lot of people, they think maybe they start off the day with a croissant and they're like, oh, my whole day's ruined. You still have two more chances with more meals or more snacks to change the trajectory of that day. So keep
Mhm.
that in mind too if you're listening to this, that like some parts may feel a little low, but you can always turn them back up.
Yeah.
Now, as we get into this, I'd love to just talk about macronutrients, building strength, muscle for women. And so I want to start off with what are some of the biggest mistakes you see women make when it comes to their nutrition specifically, when they are trying
Mhm.
to have some sort of body recomposition, gaining strength, gaining muscle, losing fat?
Yeah. Number one is not consuming enough carbohydrates. Mm, that one might seem a little shocking. We're in such a protein emphasis era. I think it would be very difficult to ask 1,000 women and say, do you think you need protein? I think most women can be like, yeah, I think I do. We're kind of over that, like proteins for boys. Like we're over that era, right?
Yeah.
And that's not the problem. I think we're falling into the era of um, we're not getting enough carbs in our diet. And when we are wanting to build that strength, body recomposition, whatever that goal might be, we're working out in some way, shape, or form, right? You can't out train a bad diet, but at the same time, you still need both. We're training and we're eating, is the assumption here. And when we're training, we're utilizing energy to train, to lift those weights, to run, to walk. And we need to put that energy back into our body. And I think we tend to think high protein, low carb, just as a general wellness, health like environment. But what we're missing from that is you're not just going to work out once and be done. You have to do that workout again, maybe tomorrow or the next day, right? It's a lifestyle. It is a habit. And so what we're doing when we're cutting back on those carbs is we're missing out on that energy source. And you might now then think, I feel really tired, or I feel like I need that, second or third or fourth cup of coffee in the afternoon, or gosh, my legs have been sore for like 3, 4, 5 days, or I'm not sleeping well, or my period's kind of messed up, or like any of those symptoms, right? Those aren't necessarily exclusive to nutrition, but they can be related to nutrition. And so when we're missing that adequate carb in our diet, we're really compromising a lot of those symptoms that then affect your performance in the gym and your sleep and your recovery. And then you can see how that can have like a snowball effect. And it just doesn't get highlighted enough. Now, again, the extreme is not necessarily let's go and eat the croissants and the donuts all the time. Those are technically a carb, but more so, okay, how can we get maybe more of our whole foods based carbs? If we're a body recomposition and we want to gain muscle and try and lose fat, we want to try and feel full, right? So the filling carbohydrates, think of your beans, your lentils, your potatoes, skin on, your whole grains, your farro, your barley. I can go on and on. But your fiber rich carbohydrates that give you the energy that your brain and your body needs while also filling you up, right? It's not necessarily always the cakes and the cookies and the donuts, even though those technically have carbs in them. It's more so all the ones I just listed, your fruit and all that jazz. So I think that's like the number one mistake, and often an area that I have to work on with a lot of women, to say, let's overcome that mental hurdle of it's not mutually exclusive to say I want to build muscle and I have to be low carb. It should be mutually exclusive of I want to build muscle and thus I have to fuel my body, which includes making sure that I get adequate carbs in.
Ooh, that was a good one. A lot of people would say, yeah, it's usually protein. So let's
Usually
actually break
protein.
down just like
Mhm.
the macronutrients and what they are and what they're used for first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So proteins, carbs, and fat. You've kind of already mentioned what carbs are and what they do.
Mhm.
You want to go a little bit deeper on that or go into protein
Yep.
and fats?
Yep. How deep do you want me to go into? So carbohydrates, carbs for short, our body and our brain's main source of energy. It's our brain's only source of energy. So our brain can only use glucose, which is a breakdown of carbs, as an energy source. This part is like fascinating to me. I nerd out every time I talk about it, which is a lot. But essentially, if our brain doesn't get the glucose it needs through our diet, it will break down other things to get glucose, because your brain is kind of a diva in the sense of it only uses glucose and it uses a lot of it too. Think about how much our brain does, controls everything in your body. And if we reach such a point, it will break down muscle in order for us to get glucose. And now we don't think of, oh, yeah, I'm going to eat protein to make sure I get glucose. That makes no sense. There is a conversion that will get you there. It's clunky. It's your last resort, but your brain, it will break down muscle to get carbs if we're at like a really basically starvation period. And isn't that the opposite of what we want when we're trying to build muscle, right? As women, that's the opposite. And so again, importance of getting the carbs in our diet is it spares your body from breaking down muscle in order to create energy. So anyways, carbs, brain, energy source, it's amazing. It's lovely. We love to see it. But it's the energy source for the rest of your body. The mitochondria is a powerhouse of the cell. It breaks down carbohydrates and turns it into ATP. Okay, I told you I would nerd out. I love it so much.
You heard it
We'll move
here
on.
first.
Yeah.
Eat the carbs.
Eat the
your
carbs. Exactly.
Love it.
Number 2, protein. Protein you can think about as the building blocks of every single cell in your body. It is the cell structure for your muscles, for your hair, for your skin. And it just is cell structure is a way to think about it. And then your fat does a lot of things. It's kind of a catch-all. It's your body's long-term source of energy. So while let's say you're just sitting and listening to this podcast, you're using primarily fat as energy. And fat is just a long-burning energy. So I like to describe of it as like coal. When you use the trains to go across country, I think they use coal or they used to use coal. And that can take you over the cross country for a long period of time. But versus carbs is like a quick burst of energy. Think about it like a matchstick. It's big, but it doesn't last for very long. And fats also help with things like support your hormone health, help you absorb your vitamins, a little bit in the cell structure too. It kind of does a lot of things, but it's a catch-all.
What kind of sources do you like for fats?
I love for fats, things like your oils, your avocado. I'm making guacamole tonight, so I'm super pumped. They're perfectly ripe, so I've only got one day.
Nice. One day only, yes.
One day only. Yep,
tomorrow.
gotta eat them today. Fats, nuts, and seeds are a good one. Yeah, fats are also found in a lot of your proteins. So most of our protein isn't 100% protein. There is just some sort of fat in there, just given the way an animal grows. And so fat is also kind of crosses over with protein too. And then cheese. Cheese also has some fats in there, a little bit of protein as well. So those are just some of the sources.
Okay, awesome. So we went over the macronutrients, why they're important for you. You are a carb person. You're like, let's go. We want the carbs, and I'm all about that because I love the donuts too. I mean, I eat, obviously other carbs as well. But can you talk about the difference?
Don't let it be exclusive. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm like, can I order a donut delivered today? Now that we're talking about this, I probably will. Can you talk about the difference between what carbs are good for you and quote unquote bad for you?
Yeah, I know. We like things in boxes, good and bad,
right?
black and white. Yeah, I totally understand. So maybe more of your health promoting carbs and then your carbs for like the fun days, the 20%, the dimmer's slightly off, right? The more nutrient dense carbohydrates, oh my gosh, they're so amazing. A lot of them will be high in fiber. So 95% of Americans are deficient in fiber. I personally think that fiber is going to be the new protein. I just mentioned, protein's a whole era and whatnot. I think fiber will be next. I think we're kind of getting there. So you heard it here first.
Yes, love it.
But these healthful carbohydrates also have fiber in them. And fiber is really great because it helps promote digestion. It's what forms our bowel movements, eliminates waste, but also helps us regulate our blood sugar and is really great and associated with improved cardiovascular health. When they do a bunch of studies on preventing chronic diseases, often consuming higher fiber is associated with less disease risk and mortality and all that jazz. But these are things like your whole grains, your fruits, things like people don't think of potatoes, but I like to advocate for my little tuber friends. Potatoes, skin on with that fiber, can be a really great source of carbohydrates as well and delicious. And those ones are going to be also high in your B vitamins and folate, even iron too. They have a lot of other benefits besides just carbohydrates in them. Now, the carbs that we want less often are more so of like your refined sugars, refined carbohydrates. So the cakes, the cookies, the pastries, all that jazz. You can think about things like candy, but also don't forget these come in through our drinks as well, which is a huge area of sodas, of your sweetened Starbucks frappuccinos, of sweetened teas, energy drinks, all that stuff. Those also contribute to your carbs. And they're fine, right? They have a time and a place, especially as an athlete, but we don't want to rely on those as our carb source because there's not really any other nutrients in there besides carbs. You're not really getting the B vitamins, you're not really getting the iron, you're not getting the folate, you're not getting the fiber. And there's a balance because it would be unrealistic to not have those foods in our diet, but just think about how much more nutrients your brown rice or your barley or your quinoa or your potatoes, not to bring it back to potatoes, but think about, yeah, literally, I'm open. But think about how many other nutrients that provides you versus just something as simple as like granulated sugar.
Why do you think people are so low in fiber? 95% of people.
Wow. What a great question. Many reasons.
Yeah.
One, fiber foods don't really taste as good as not fiber foods for the most part, right? Would you rather have an apple or would you rather have grandma's apple pie? For most part,
Yeah.
most people would say the apple pie, right? There's a perceived, the fiber rich foods don't taste as good, which I would argue, like, maybe that means you're not a good cook and you don't know how to season your food. But like, there is that kind of perception which then also kind of stems from a lot of people don't know how to cook. We're not really taught this in school. You might take a cooking class, but you didn't really take it seriously. Or maybe your parents didn't cook, so they didn't pass that along to you. Or you were an athlete during school, and so you didn't have time to cook, right? So many different factors. So taste and also just lack of cooking skills. And then sometimes even just access, right? Foods that are less fiber rich, maybe more of our processed carbs sit on the shelf for longer. They're easier to sell, they're easier to access versus things like your apples and think about your berries, think about your avocados. Like those go bad so quickly. And so why would you want to spend $5 on a pint of berries when you can spend $5 to buy 5 bags of chips and it, can feed you for longer? So it's multifactorial. But my hope is that we'll slowly start to see improvement on that just because it's such a great nutrient for our body.
So you mentioned nuts and seeds, berries, apples, spinach.
Spinach, yeah.
Other like just fiber that people could add or spruce into their diet.
Yeah, the fiber hacks. So fiber maxing is like the trend right now.
Okay.
But I believe in fiber microdosing, like while we're on this, like, I don't know, very drug adjacent terms.
Yeah.
Like might as well just microdose it because we don't want to fiber max. Too much fiber at once equals bloating equals we all know there was like one Chad in middle school who decided to eat 6 fiber one bars. Like it definitely happened and we all know what happens to him in the bathroom. Yes. So we want to fiber microdose, slowly increase top ways. You can easily swap out a whole grain for a refined grain, a brown rice for a white rice, a whole wheat pasta for a regular pasta. My 2 favorite, one I mentioned before, avocados. So avocados are a really great source of fiber. Keep in mind that they are a pretty high fat source too. So a lot of calories can come from your avocado, but really great as a spread, as a dip. Let's say if you were going to a football watch party. Football's coming back and we love it. Instead of, bringing a creamy queso dip, you can bring a guacamole that's going to have more fiber and nutrients in there that everyone still loves, right? So that's my number 1, avocado. And number 2 is chia seeds. So 1 tablespoon of chia seeds has about 5 grams of fiber, which is kind of a lot. So adding chia seeds into your yogurt parfaits, adding them into your protein balls or your oat bakes or chia seeds, some people just throw it into water and call it a day. But it's a really great fiber-packed food that I think, from a low hanging fruit perspective, easy, easy, easy. Chia seeds are like amazing. The hack that everyone needs to know. When it was cherry juice, number one during COVID, now it is chia seeds that I think everyone's going to go after.
I love it. And it really is so easy to throw into. For me, I have overnight oats or yogurt or something every morning. Just throw in there, put it in a smoothie, something that you're kind of already doing.
Exactly.
That way it's just like you're adding to it. So, okay, if someone was like, this sounds awesome, right? Like I've got all these macronutrients down. Christina told me about them. I know what they do. How do I actually figure out, how do I calculate how much I need? What does that number actually mean? How long do I have to track it? What am I doing with this now?
Yeah. So we kind of fall into like two camps here, right? Where you have people who want and can and like are totally fine and maybe need to track. And then you have folks who are like, I want to, but like I don't really know if I should, or I don't have the time to, or mentally it would make me spiral. So let's go backwards. Let's address the last one. So the spiral group. Tracking is not for you. You don't need to track, right? The challenge with tracking is that your nutrition labels can vary by up to 15 or 20% both ways. And that's
so
high.
big.
It's so big, but at the same time, I don't know if I would want it to be any smaller, because that would mean that every blade of wheat, every chicken needs to be grown the exact same way. And I don't love that idea, to be honest, like let nature be nature. And so the reason for that is from an agricultural perspective. Just think about the whole US. The chicken on the west might be different than the chicken on the east. And, it all kind of has to match, right? It's confusing. So the range of error is so wide that it's like, what's the point sometimes, and especially if you're someone that is very numbers oriented, if I don't get 100%, I will spiral. It's not for you. And that's okay. That's not a good or a bad thing. It's just the way that you're built. That's the way that I'm built. Like I prefer not to sometimes, And in that case, I would highly recommend following the plate method. In the plate method, you can basically visually ensure that you're getting the right balance of your macronutrients, which is a balance of your carbs, your protein. You're going to use some sort of fat to cook or to top or whatever. And then we have to make sure that we get some sort of color. So your fruits and vegetables too. And everyone has their own rendition of saying that. So the plate method is really great for those who don't like to track, or even if you do like to track, it's really great when you're traveling or we might not know exactly what's in your food. Just kind of have that mental checklist. Do I have my carb? Do I have my protein? Do I have some sort of fat? And then do I have my color as well? So that's sort of camp number one. Camp number two, when it comes to tracking, let's say you're, really gung ho on it and what have you. My number one thing is whatever app that you use, most of the time, the first instinct of what they give you is often wrong. I think I've only had one instance when I worked with a client who tracked before we met together, where I was like, okay, this seems right. I almost always have to course correct whatever the app is giving them, because oftentimes the apps double account for exercise. So my calculations are based off of a lot of things, but it gives you how much you need to eat, and then the app will subtract based off of how much you're exercising from the information on your Apple Watch or your Whoop or whatever. It over convolutes it and gets way too complicated. And now like everyone's spiraling, and that's not necessarily what we want to do. So ideally we would give it one shot, and then adjust from there. So let's say you were to try a certain set of calories and macros, and you're like, I'm famished every night. We got to bump it up. Right? You know more about yourself than that app does. You know more about yourself than that app does. Bump it up and just try again. Try it for a couple days, maybe a week. All right, we're good. This is comfy. This is where I like to be. Or on the opposite. Oh my God, I'm stuffing my face. I can't meet my goals. Like I'm really struggling here. Maybe it's too high. Maybe we need to bump it down. Just generally speaking. Right. So that's how we would go about that. The general range, like textbook range for healthy Americans for your carbs is by percentage of your calories, 45 to 65% of your calories for your carbs, around 20 to 35% for your protein, and 10 to 35% for your fat. It's a lot of numbers. It's very confusing. A really easy way to kind of split it up is just to say, let's say 50% of your carbs come, or your calories come from your carbs, around 25% from your protein, and 25% from your fat. And then you can adjust, from there. Some people like a higher carb diet, let's say endurance athletes. Some people like a lower carb diet. Like everyone is different and responds differently. So that's like a good place to start, generally speaking. But I make that face because in my head, I'm going through like a hypothetical scenario. There's just so much more to consider when making a macro recommendation.
Yeah. And this is all, again, just generalization, but like just giving you the knowledge to also go out there and try and figure some things out yourself. But then obviously there's experts like Christina who can help you and make this manageable for your lifestyle. Now, you had mentioned like you can change things around if you're feeling famished or if you're feeling this way. How do people actually know what to change based on how they're feeling?
Yeah, great question. Typically when it comes to overall energy, like I'm hungry, typically means we need to increase our calories. Again, this is just generally speaking. If we're really running low on steam during your workouts or really during your workouts, that's probably a sign that we would need more carbs. Just we're missing that energy in the tank. Um, like I said, to be honest, most of the apps are fine on protein. Like, if anything, overestimates protein. So usually most people's protein isn't under when it comes to recommendation, anecdotally speaking. And then fats, to be honest, a lot of people tend to meet or exceed their fat needs. It's a really easy macronutrient to get in unless you are intentionally boiling all of your food, not using an ounce of oil or butter or anything to, like if you were going down that route, you could probably be low in fat. But honestly, most people are pretty good because they'll, use it to saute or roast their vegetables.
And that's like a good amount for them.
Yeah, yeah. Really, fats aren't, I would say, not getting enough fat is usually not a concern.
Okay.
If anything, it's like, oh, someone's got a loose hand with their olive oil, or like, oh, we're forgetting about the fat in our protein. Or anytime you go out to eat, like they're typically using a lot higher fat. We don't know how to measure that, but they're typically adding a lot more fat in your diet. Like there's more so on the other end of a concern of overconsumption of fat, just because it's so easy to get in. Something I forgot to mention is that fat has 9 calories per gram versus carbs and protein have 4. So just think about that as fat is twice the amount of calories or twice as energy dense compared to your carbs and your protein. So it's a lot easier to overdo it on your fat. So that's really more so the challenge that we deal with.
You haven't really talked about protein at all, Christina, and people need to know. They need to know. What does a dietitian recommend? And obviously we'll take it as, a couple different versions of each person because everyone's pretty different, right? But like you've mentioned that there is a lot of trend. It is like, you're not eating enough. We should be eating more. What should we be eating? How much should we be eating?
Yeah. You're not gonna like it. It really does depend.
Let's give a couple samples of people.
A couple examples. Honestly, a general rule of thumb, like if I were to say one thing, is to aim for anywhere from 20 to 40 grams of whoa, let me back in the carbs. Hold on. Let's go back. 20 to 40 grams of protein per meal is a good starting range, right? Make sure that we're getting enough, at least 20 minimum. Like that's low for a lot of people, but for some that need the push to get that protein in their diet, it's enough. That's about like 3 ounces of a meat, for example. 20 to 40 grams of protein per meal, and anywhere from about 10-ish, 10 or 15 per snack is a great framework to start if you're like brand new and don't know really what you're doing, and that's okay. But I would start there. And then let's say let's say if you needed more protein than that, then I would add either a protein rich snack or I would just increase a portion at your meal. Simple as that.
You didn't give us what we wanted, actually, Christina, though.
What do you
Said
want?
20 She said 20 to 30 grams per meal, right?
20 to 40.
20 to 40 grams per meal. So
Yeah.
let's just say on the low end, that's 20, 40, 60, and then
Yep.
10 per snack. So we're at like 80.
Yeah.
Does that feel like a good place for people to start? Or does it also just depend on who they are and what they're doing?
Yeah. It depends on who they are. It depends on how active they are. It depends on their weight. That's the big one. So using your weight to calculate how many grams of protein that you need. We'll do one right now. Give me a weight.
Yeah. Let's say 150-pound woman, moderately active. Let's say like a couple times a week in the gym, 2 to 3 times a week.
In that realm, so 150 pounds, moderately active, I would start them at around 100 grams of protein per day.
Okay.
So let's say if they were to do 30 grams at each meal or 20, 40, 40, or, whatever, plus a snack, 10 grams.
Yeah.
That's it.
That'd be right around 100. Awesome. So now where does that shift if let's say that same person is either wanting to gain more muscle or wanting to get in the gym a little bit more? Like, how does that shift?
Yeah, we would probably increase it. So, in order to gain more muscle, you need to ultimately eat more food to stimulate the muscle growth in addition to your workouts.
Yeah.
So we may bump them up, not by much. Let's say 120-ish grams of protein. Bump it up by 20 grams, right? With this, we'd also need to bump up your carbs overall, just because we're probably training more, and we want to stimulate that muscle growth, right? So an extra 20 grams of protein, 3 ounces. All you'd have to do is add an extra ounce of protein at every meal, and then you're there. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Or it's a little bit of science, but it's not necessarily like the hardest thing in the world. If you break it down based off of your meal, you're adding an extra ounce here. Or you can consider 20 grams as a protein shake, right? Most standard protein shakes are around 20, 25 grams of protein.
Yeah.
You'd say, all right, I need to just add a protein shake as one of my snacks and do that. So it's not like you're going, again, extreme 0 to 100 of like, oh my God, I need to eat so much more food now. It's about adding a little bit more or taking a little bit off whenever we're making these changes.
So you also said something about your weight. Your weight can make a difference on how much you're eating. How does that come into play?
It's just body size, body frame. How much mass are you carrying? It's going to affect how much that you need to eat. So, for example, a Simone Biles is probably going to need to eat a lot different than a Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah.
So, your body size does matter when it comes to how much food that we need to consume, because it's just how many calories are we burning at rest and, a whole bunch of different factors.
Is there any actual rule of thumb with some math we can do to figure out what that is? Like, is it that 0.8 per kilo is how much, or is there anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what you're referring to is 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight for protein. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 0.8 to 1.2, I think.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the standard, like FDA for general population and yada, yada. What we have to account for is, yes, that's for general population, but most of the general population isn't very active. And we're working on, let's make sure that we're eating the right types of food in our diet. Let's get our bodies moving. And that's the baseline, because you've got a lot of things that you need to do with your life, right?
Yeah.
But let's say we're in this position where, you know what? We have a gym membership, or we're doing our workouts, or running a half marathon. I don't know, whatever your exercise type is, we're probably going to need more than that. So for most active people, it's at minimum 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. It can go up to at least, some say 3. I say 2.5 grams per kilo, but That's for very specific cases. That's for, can be for weight gain, especially for those who are on the lower end of the spectrum, body weight wise. Overall, they just need more calories. That can be for injury. So let's say you're post-op ACL. Like there's a lot of very niche and specific scenarios where that can be the case. But for most people, it's at least 1.2 grams per kilo for those in the active population.
Okay. I love that.
Mhm.
Thanks for breaking that down for us too. Do you feel like there's any red flags when it comes, well, yeah, I'm sure there are, but any red flags when it comes to nutrition, diets, just like out there right now that someone could see and be like, oh my gosh, like, do I follow this? Do I not? Like confusing red flag nutrition things, specifically maybe on the macronutrient side.
Yeah. Any elimination of macros.
Okay.
We need all three for a reason.
Yeah.
They all work together too. So anything that's extremely low fat, low carb, low protein, like anything of that sort should raise a red flag. It's a yellow flag, I would say, but any sort of extremes, right? We've kind of touched on that a lot today
Yeah.
of like anything like as much as we love a yes and no list,
Yeah.
anything that's like you cannot have a slice of cake. Who's going to come after you? You know, like what's going to happen? Am I just going to get like sucked out of the sky by an alien and tossed into the universe? What's going to happen? It's just one piece of cake.
Yeah.
Any bit of that extremism is like, what are you really getting at here? And that tends to raise, I don't want to say a red flag because there sometimes lists are really helpful, but more so like a yellow flag of like caution. Anything that's really supplement based, supplement heavy. Your main protein sources are going to be whey protein, casein, BCAAs. Your main carbs are going to be your maltodextrin and your yada yada, your pre-workout. Like that's MCT oils for your fat. Anything that's super supplement heavy, I'd probably stay away from as well. Like food is our original supplement. It is our food. It is what nourishes our body. So really sticking with that. Yeah, I'm sure there's many more, kind of like the obvious ones, but if someone's yelling at you and they don't have their shirt on, like probably going to be a no.
At the grocery store, those are
At the
my
grocery
least favorite
store.
too. I will just fully swipe through that. I'm like, are
Yeah,
you eating this? You suck.
you
Like,
suck. You're a
no.
terrible human.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay,
Really
I
quickly
just woke
bye.
up.
Scroll. I know, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say those
Okay,
are my
cool.
main flags.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. So if we were to like help someone, let's give like a sample day of balanced macronutrients per plate.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's just give that same example of maybe a 150-pound woman, moderately active. She wants to potentially change her body a little bit, get a little stronger. So let's do like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner for her.
Yeah.
Eats everything too. Let's just say that to make it
Okay, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to make it easy for us. Maybe we'll give different examples. If they
Oh,
are
how fun.
potentially
Yeah.
vegetarian or vegan.
Oh, let's do it. I like that. Okay. So let's say in the morning. Oh, when does she work out?
Good call. Let's say morning. Yeah, morning, like 7,
Okay.
6:30, 7 o'clock.
You go, girl.
That's not
So no, I'm a night owl. Yeah.
you. You are? Okay, so you go to bed at
yeah.
midnight.
I'm a 11 to 7 girl. I'm an afternoon girl. Let's be real, but aren't we all?
No, I am not.
Really?
I love the
yeah.
morning now. I used to be, but
Yeah. I think it'll change throughout my life, but back in the day, I used to have to do those early morning 6 a.m. clients, and I
Yeah.
think that just burnt me out. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's too dark.
That's totally fair. I
Yeah.
get it. This specific example is like, let's
Yeah.
do 6:37 in the morning.
Okay.
That's when they work
Yes,
out.
you go, girl.
A couple times.
So I would say from a sports nutrition perspective, number one is to make sure that we get something to eat before your workout. It's early. I know. Trust me, I've done it before. It's early. We don't want to do it, but you definitely need to eat before we work out because that's like a really crucial time to make sure that we have our energy. And the last time that we ate was probably dinner the night before. It's a long time. So something quick, about 30 grams of carbs, typically a banana, a glass of orange juice, a 2 packets of Welch's fruit snacks. Like something simple, go-go squeeze. Something simple that is easy on the stomach that you can haul in before you do your morning workout. You're doing your workout, you're drinking your water, and then you come home, and ideally you would have breakfast within, we'll call it 30 to 60 minutes at the end of your workout. If she's busy, it might need to be a snack and then breakfast, but in an ideal world, let's just say you come home and you can have breakfast. That's your post-workout. This might look like, we'll take the yogurt parfait. Yogurt parfait, the yogurt being your protein. I think about a cup is anywhere from 20, 25-ish grams of protein. We add some chia seeds in there to help bump up the fiber. It's got a little bit of protein in there too. Some granola to give it some texture, but also bump up the carbs. And then we slice up a banana or some fruit you have on deck. Keep it
Berries.
simple like that. Berries.
The berries.
They're gonna rot. So put the berries in there. You only have 36 hours. Get them in.
Yeah.
And it's peak berry season, so we love to see it. So something like that we'll call for the morning breakfast. And then let's say she has her breakfast, and then that fills her up until I feel like I'm thinking about like clients in this scenario. Some of them have a morning snack. Some of them don't. They might make themselves a little, a latte with a little Fairlife milk, something like that. And like a little bar. I don't know. Everyone's different. And then lunch, let's say lunch, busy. So she makes herself a sandwich. She's got some whole grain bread and some roast chicken or some ham. We'll call it 3 ounces at the minimum. And then, your lettuce, your tomato. I'm a big pickle girl, so you got to get your pickles in there. It's an absolute must. Your mustard, I don't know, whatever else you want in your sandwich. And let's say you have that with a side of fruit. Or if you want to get more veggies in, a side of carrots and celery and hummus or ranch or whatever it may be. So super easy lunch, no cook. It's too hot. And then let's see. Most people, I would say, have an afternoon snack, like a 3:00 snack. So that might look like it could be something like a protein bar. It could be something like a little cheese and cracker plate. It could be something, your girl dinners, anything along those lines. It could be, everyone loves their Chomps beef jerky stick with a piece of fruit. Really just some sort of combination of protein and carbs, ideally your nutrient dense carbs. And then dinner comes around, and my favorite meal, and let's say dinner is, what are we in the mood for? Yeah, I don't know. The dinner has so many options.
So many options.
Let's say I'm trying to take what my clients are doing. It's Greek meatballs. It's Greek meatballs. That's so much work. I'm gonna take that one back. It's chicken fajitas.
Yeah. I was like, we have
client's a go-getter.
Burrito bowls.
Bowls.
Chicken fajitas.
Stir fries. Yeah, anything like that, where you can make that plate method, where you do, let's say, the fajita bowls with chicken, and you can slice up some peppers, roast it on the same pan or grill it on the same grill as, the two together. You cook up some rice. Trader Joe's has a really easy, I think it's a 3-minute frozen rice that you can just throw into the microwave or make stovetop, and then serve that all with some avocado to add some extra fiber. Mm-hmm. And salsa and hot sauce and all of that fun jazz. And yeah, that would be like a typical day.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. And, this is all a basic understanding, but really Christina went through, we went through pre-workout, we had a post-workout, we had a snack, we had lunch, we had another snack, we had dinner. We didn't even go on dessert, which fiber, obviously there's so many, things involved in here where you can really mix and match. And what I like to tell all my clients too is find something that you really like, and then just make slightly different variations of that, right? We had talked about the bowls. We'll make rice for the week and do a fajita bowl, a med bowl, a stir fry. There's so many things you can do off of just those base protein carbs that you have too.
Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole episode on like easy meal prep tips and hacks and all that, but that's a whole nother hour. And I think you mentioned a great point. I actually had this conversation with a client recently where, they were putting all these expectations that every single meal needed to be this big, glamorous, like multifactorial thing. And I was like, no, it does not need to be. You're a busy woman,
Yeah.
She like just needed someone to tell her that. And so her challenge was or my challenge to her was to say, you know what? I don't care what your husband wants to eat, okay? Like, he's a grown man, he can fend for himself, or just eat whatever you make. But like, what do you want to eat today? Go and make that food, because then it scratches that mental itch of like, man, I'm really craving fajitas. Like, then make the fajitas and then
Yeah.
fulfill that need. And then you're not constantly thinking about fajitas for the rest of the week. And it was just a little simple challenge for her. But within a couple days, she was like, I feel so much better, of like, I'm eating the foods that I want to eat. I'm not overcomplicating it, going to Trader Joe's and picking up, the frozen rice and making it easy on myself because she works a full-time job and trains for, a marathon. And back to the beginning, we put so much pressure on ourselves that we don't really need to. Your job is to fuel yourself, and to fill your own cup. And so I share that to, hopefully someone else who might see themselves in that scenario, just for you to know it does not need to be perfect. It certainly does not need to be glamorous, but it's about what does your body need, but also like mentally, what food do you need? What food do you want? What flavors do you want? What texture do you want? And satisfy those cravings in those ways.
I love that. I was going to ask you what to leave women with, and that is great to like come
That's
back
it.
into what's listening to your body. You know what's actually really funny about this, Christina, is sometimes I like, and I don't know about you, I really don't know what I want. I like,
Mhm.
and I'll be like, all right, Teddy, my husband, I'll be like, all right, like, what do you want to eat? And then we'll just like go back and forth, right? I
Mhm.
saw this reel the other day that this is going to work. You say to your partner, oh my gosh, I'm thinking of where we want to go tonight. Guess. And whatever they say is where you go.
I love it. I love it.
So sometimes you really have no idea. They'll say
Yeah.
something and be like, yeah, that's fine. That's all I wanted.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to make the decision myself. So
Oh, absolutely. Maybe I'll say
hopefully you
that to
guys can use
myself.
that.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Christina, you're never going to believe where we're going. What?
Where?
Where?
And then the car just takes you there.
No,
Christina,
that's
thank
great. I love
you.
it.
Thank you so much for being on again. Where can people follow you, learn more about you, what you do, and all the things?
Yeah, feel free to tag along at Christina Y. Chu. That's the same thing for my website as well, ChristinaYchu.com. That really has everything in there. And yeah, I love to help people either one-on-one, on a team level too, or even like a corporate speaking engagement, make your company pay for it. Like, all those activations. I'm really here just to help people with their nutrition and ultimately fuel their body for their performance.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here again. One of our only second time guests. So thank you.
I'm
And
honored.
it's gonna
Let's make it 3.
Yes.